Hey guys, this is Patrick Hall with Fstoppers.com, and today we're going to be checking out the Boling BL-50C LED lights. These things are pretty cool. So a couple weeks ago, the company Boling sent us a LED kit to test out, and basically this kit comes with 3 LED lights that run on batteries, which is pretty interesting. And they are bi-color, meaning that you can actually change the color temperature as well as change the intensity of the light. Now, a lighting kit like this probably isn't that useful for photographers, but if you're into video, this is going to be really powerful because you can do a lot with 3 lights. So obviously I just have 1 light here from the kit, but let's see what you get if you actually were to purchase the entire set. Now, the first thing I want to show you guys, just to get it out of the way, is this nice little lighting kit that they give you. You get basically 3 little light stands, and you get 2 of these goosenecks, which allow you to kind of bend the lights around. And it all fits in this really convenient package. Here in the Fstopper studio, we have a couple of these light stands already. They're made by Manfrotto, but these are really handy because they pack down really small, and because of the way these are designed, you can actually put lights really low to the ground without having light stands that sit up too high. Now, if you start getting into more professional video shoots, you're probably going to want some beefier light stands, but since these lights weigh so little, they really work well with these light stands, and if you travel, everything packs down into this nice little bag, which is really, really handy. So now that we've talked about the light stands, let's talk about the rest of the kit. Now, Boling sends all 3 lights in this nice little bag, and if you open this up, you actually get 2 of these 50C lights, which have a zoom ring on it, and you get 1 50D light, which does not have a zoom feature. Other than that, all 3 of these lights are pretty similar. They're really small and lightweight, and they pack nicely into this bag. Of course, you also get some barn doors that you can use. You get all the power adapters. This thing can run on 2 Sony batteries or on the power adapter, so it's really convenient if you want to set these up permanently. Or if you want to take these out on location, these 2 Sony batteries will actually power these lights at full intensity for about 3 to 4 hours. Now, besides a couple barn doors that they give you in this kit, you also get a couple reflector options. Now, these reflectors, they only work on the non-zoom version of the light. They basically just pop in there and then you can screw this top on. You get 1 silver reflector, you get 1 white reflector, and then you also get one of these soft domes that just fits on top, which should soften the light just a bit. Now, the first feature that this light has that's worth talking about is that it runs on both DC and AC power. So literally with 1 rocker switch here, you can switch over to the DC power, and then you can go the other way and run off of AC from your wall. Now, the batteries that they use are actually the Sony NP-F series, which are pretty common among videographers, and a lot of other lighting units use these same batteries. You will get 2 batteries per light, so you're going to get 6 of these in the bag. But if you have a couple of these lying around, you can use those on these lights as well. Now, each one of these lights also comes with a mounting bracket that fits on any normal light stand. And then once this is secured onto the light stand, you can kind of finesse the angle that the light's hitting with these 2 locking nuts on the side. Now, if you turn on the light with the battery, you can actually look on the back and you can see the intensity, and you can rotate the knob to lower the light intensity or to increase it. And then if you push the knob in, it actually changes to the Kelvin setting so that you can control the color temperature of the light. It also has a nice battery indicator on the back so that you know exactly how much charge you have left in your batteries. Now, these particular lights have a range from 2500 Kelvin all the way up to 5800 Kelvin, which is going to cover all of your daylight spectrum as well as incandescent lights. One thing I've noticed in using these lights, however, is that it takes a long time to actually rotate this knob and go through the full range. So I am spinning the knob right now 360 degrees over and over and over again. And to go from one end of the spectrum to the other end of the spectrum, you literally have to turn this dial 10 or 15 times. So it does take quite a bit of time to actually change the color on these lights, which is kind of annoying. And if I click the button and go back to the power setting, it also takes a long time to decrease the value from 100% all the way down to 5%, which is the lowest level that it goes. I mean, you can see I'm literally rotating this dial, and now we have finally reached the lowest level. And another thing I've noticed compared to some of the other lights that we have is at 5%, it's still really not that dim. This might actually only be going like 1 to 2 stops between the highest intensity to the lowest intensity. So if you really want to get this light low and just have it as a simple accent light, you might actually have to put some kind of diffuser on the front of this light to knock down the power even more. So all in all, these little Boling lights, they look pretty promising. They're really lightweight. They're designed pretty well, and the fans in them are pretty quiet, which is going to be important if you shoot video. But let's compare this light to another light that we use in the studio on a daily basis. Alright, so this next light that I have to compare this to is the Fiilex P360EX light. This is our go-to light. We've been using this for several years now, and this was actually probably the first light of this type on the market. As you can see, they're almost identical in size. Of course, you can run batteries on the Boling light, which is really handy. The Fiilex light only uses AC power, but you can plug this into an external battery. So if you have a Vagabond or some other DC power, you could actually plug this in and use it with the battery as well, but it does not have battery capability built directly in. You can actually see there's a fan directly in the back of this unit. Just like the Boling light, this light as well also has color temperatures that you can change, and as you can see, I can rotate the dial really quickly and go from warm light to blue light, which makes it really handy if you're trying to set a color temperature fast and quick. We have the same sort of knob on the intensity, so I can literally go from the lowest power all the way to the brightest power. This light also doesn't go as low as I wish it would, but I think it is going more than 2 stops from the lowest setting to the highest setting, but we'll do that test here in a minute. Now, while these two lights are pretty similar, there is one design feature that really makes the Fiilex stand out in my opinion, and that is that the size of this light is actually perfectly designed to fit ProPhoto lighting gear. So if you already have ProPhoto speed rings or grids, they will fit onto the Fiilex light, which allows you to use every modifier you already have in your studio with these LED lights. Now if I take off this grid and try to use it on the Boling system, it kind of fits on there, but it's slightly smaller to where it won't actually lock on. Now you could probably just tape the grid to this, but if you want to get into some of the larger light modifiers like a beauty dish or like a big soft light like we're using to light me, you're going to have to come up with a different solution for that. So while I can use a lot of different modifiers with the Fiilex system, the only light modifiers I'm going to be able to use with the Boling system are the ones that actually come in the box. So now that I've talked a little bit about the differences between these two lights, let's get this backdrop up and let's start looking at the different light qualities between the two. Just trying to make it entertaining. For this first test, I wanted to compare the brightness and white balance of both the Boling and Fiilex lights. This is the Fiilex light set to 6500 Kelvin and at full power. The white balance looks pretty good, nice and white without any major color casts. Now as I turn on one of the Boling BL-50C zoom lights, you can immediately see that it has a much stronger magenta cast at the exact same white balance setting. It does appear to be a little brighter, but the beam of light is also a lot tighter compared to the Fiilex. Here are the two lights side by side. For the next test, I wanted to see how low the two lights could be dimmed. I first set the Fiilex light to its lowest power and then set the Boling light to its lowest power. As you can see, it takes a lot of time to get the Boling light down to its lowest power, but in the end, I feel like the Fiilex can actually dim down the most, which could be really useful in low light situations. Next, let's see how warm these two lights can get by changing the white balance. The Fiilex only goes down to 3000 Kelvin, while the Boling light will actually go all the way down to 2500, but it might take you a while to get to this endpoint. As you can see, the Boling light does get a lot warmer, which could be really useful if you needed to light someone in a strong incandescent scene. One of the biggest advantages the Boling light has going for it is that it can actually focus the light. In order to focus the light on the Fiilex, we had to actually use a 5-degree ProPhoto grid. Both of these lights do come with a set of barn doors, but unfortunately, we lost the barn doors for our Fiilex light. Next, I wanted to see if either of these lights displayed a flicker when the shutter speed was increased from 1/25th of a second all the way up to 1/200th of a second. As you can see, both lights do extremely well in producing a constant light without any flicker. Now, after doing all of these tests, I realized that the strong magenta color cast that we saw in the Boling lights was actually only prevalent in the two zoomable lights in the kit. The non-zoom light, the 50D model, actually had near perfect color balance, as you can see in this example. When I brought the two 50C models that zoom into the scene, you can clearly see the color cast at play. So now that we've compared some of the qualitative features between these lights, let's take the bowling light outside since it runs on battery, and let's see if we can actually use one of these small lights in a real-world example when it's actually pretty bright outside. All right, so now we've stepped outside, and I just want to see if this light can be usable in a real-world situation. We're actually currently in the shade, although it is really hot and bright outside, but if you're shooting in the shade, you're probably going to want just a little bit of light to kind of make your subject pop off of a background. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have David turn on the bowling light, and I believe this is at full power, and then we've set the white balance to 5,000 Kelvin. So as you can see, the light on my face does look a little nicer. We have a little more contrast between me and the background, but we also have a little bit of that magenta cast that's caused from the LED light itself. There's really no way to fix this in an outdoor situation like this. You could probably color correct this in the studio if it was the only light, but because we have some natural light and this LED light, you're really going to have to deal with that color cast. Now, this light is also probably about 3 to 4 feet away from me, so if you got the light any further away, it probably isn't going to be effective enough because it's just simply too bright out here. But if we were shooting a little bit later in the day when the ambient light levels were lower, this light would appear much brighter and it would be much more useful than it would be here in the shade at 3 o'clock. Now, another thing I do want to point out is that I am using the light stand that comes with this kit, and the light stand really isn't high enough to get this light in a proper position. I'm fairly short. We have the light stand all the way extended, and I did have to put on the gooseneck. So if you have someone who's 6 foot tall, they're probably going to be right at eye level with the light. So if you plan on lighting a subject who's standing, you probably are going to want some light stands that go a little bit taller than the ones that are included in the kit. So now that we've seen some differences between these two lights, let's talk about the thing everybody wants to know about, and that is price. Now, believe it or not, this little Fiilex light, brand new, is $600, which is extremely expensive for something that is just a single light source. But right now on B&H, they actually have $200 off this light, making it $400, which is cheaper than what we've actually bought this for. Now, if you go with the Boling 3 light kit, this is currently only available on Amazon, and it sells for $12.75. So if you do the math, this is actually a little bit cheaper than buying 3 Fiilex lights at full price, but if you can get the Fiilex for $400, you're right at about the same price range. But if you went with the Fiilex lights, you wouldn't get the extra batteries allowing you to shoot on location without AC power, and you also wouldn't get the light stands, which are probably about $30 each. So at the end of the day, you're probably wondering which light I would recommend. And I am a little biased to the Fiilex light because we already own it, but after these tests, I think it's kind of a no-brainer. The Fiilex light has more consistent white balance, especially with all of the other lights that we already own. It's able to fit ProPhoto light modifiers, which we already own, and so that's a no-brainer. And I feel like the knobs on the color and intensity are way easier to use. You can literally go from one end of the spectrum to the other in half a rotation, whereas the bowling lights, you really have to sit there and spin them over and over and over again. In some cases, lowering the value actually allows it to jump back up for a few. It just seems like it's not perfectly designed the way that it should be. Now, the big redeeming factor with the bowling setup is that you do get lithium batteries that allow you to take these out on location. So if you're the type of videographer that does a lot of shooting outside, you might want to go with this setup just because it's so easy to make these things portable, but keep in mind, you're really going to be limited to shooting later or earlier in the day because these just simply are not powerful enough to compete with the hard, harsh sunlight. So for us, we may use these bowling lights occasionally for some accent lights around our set and in our studios, but if you can get these Fiilex lights for $400, I definitely would recommend picking 3 of these up over the bowling lights simply because the color consistency is so much better. For more content like this, make sure you head over to fstoppers.com where we feature articles on videography and photography every single day. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel below. And if you want to learn from some of the best photographers in the industry, head over to fstoppers.com/store where you can check out our full-length tutorials.